Okay, as we said, we have different modules. I think the most important is about data factory because once you have your ETLs or your data processing in this part, in the data factory or the data art, all the other modules will be very easy to use. And and that's what is a good practice to centralize this ETL development or the data processing in just one platform. Something important also. DataArts is not mandatory for data for Huawei Cloud. So you know Huawei Cloud is open to open source technology. So if one customer say, I don't want to use your DataArts, they can use other tools that are compatible with Huawei Cloud. For example, if they already have some development using Airflow that is using Python open source, they can integrate Airflow jobs to Huawei Cloud. So this is important because if one customer say, I don't want to use Data, no problem. We still have opportunities with the core services like Data Warehouse, MapReduce, DLI, other services, no the data governance. And also this is important because it means that we are not a closed version of our technologies. We are open to other technologies. Okay, let's go back to the data factory. How does it work? Basically, I'm going to point two things. Number one is the development environment. In this part is where you can see your ETLs, for example, this one. There is a job called data lineage. So in this part, you will see in a graphical way, I mean, with notes, the different stages of the data processing. Maybe this is the bronze layer or the raw data. This is the temporal tables or processing tables, silver layer, and finally the final data, right, for the end user, the golden layer. So you will see the process here in this part of the job development in data factory, data environment, development environment, and job development. So in this part, what I want to show you is very easy to use this technology or this platform. It's graphical, so you don't need to be an expert in Python code to create some DAX about the data processing. You only need, I'm going to switch to this one, to drag and drop. For example, the first step, you want to do a shell script that executes an rsync about an SFTP files, for example, that sends data from one server to the object storage. So that shell script can be configured here. You already put here the script here, or you can bring from the storage from the scripts that we already have in the DataArts. So the first point that I wanted to show you is very easy to use. I mean, you can construct your data processing ETL in a graphical way. So for example, as the same idea. First step, synchronize data using a shell script. Second step, read those, maybe they are CSV files, right? CSV files using external tables in the data warehouse. Third step, create summary tables in the same data warehouse. And final step, create some reports using Spark DLI. So this is the idea how this kind of job works. You drag and drop the different stages of your ETL. Just configure here the statements, blah, blah, blah. And that's all. Basically, that's the idea. It's very easy to use, so any people can access to the job development, open any job, and see what is the logic of the processing. For example, here you have 4 different Spark, yes, there are Spark scripts in parallel using DLI, the serverless service here in Huawei Cloud. After those 4 parallel tasks finish, the results will synchronize in this point, and the results will update to these different tables. So this is the idea. Any people can just click, open any job, and see what is the logic of the processing. Okay. Another important functionality or feature about these DataArts is the scheduling information. So you have 2 options. Okay, 3 options. Run once, that basically is you execute and just run one, but I think it's not the usually way to use it. Second one is run periodically. I mean, when you schedule the execution of this task. So here you can say you're going to execute every week or every day, or for example, every 5 minutes in case that you want a near real-time batch processing or mini batch processing. So you can say every 5 minutes you are going to extract data, process data, and update the information in that, for example, Power BI dashboards. So the scheduling part is in this part, is here. You can say when to execute, and also the policies. For example, pues, here. The policies about execution is inside every node, is here. So you can configure if this execution fails, maybe because someone moves your schema or change your data or there is no data, you can configure what to do. For example, if this node fails, you suspend everything. I mean, it doesn't have sense to still executing this job because you don't have data. So you suspend complete execution. Or if it's not something important, you can go directly to the next node. I mean, ignore the error and continue with the other steps. So the policy about how to handle if something fails are configured in any node. So for example, if something fails, you can say finish the complete job or suspend or go to the next job like nothing happened or suspend the current execution plan. I mean, not the complete job, only the current execution. So this is important because many customers will ask or will ask you in the future how to configure if something fails is here. The policy about handling errors in general. This is related to the scheduling because if something fails, you need to know how to handle or how to manage those scenarios if something fails. Okay, going back to the other idea is run periodically. Basically, batch processing you can configure in these parts. Very easy to use. You only need to fill these boxes. The another one is event basis. So if you want an event-driven architecture or event-driven solution, this is basically available only for the data ingestion service that is available in China. So in America, maybe don't care. In Kafka, so you can configure the topics and the events to trigger this job. So for example, if one message arrived to the Kafka, this message should trigger this execution. So the idea is basically in DataArts, you have the two scenarios. If you want to do batch processing, you can execute here or schedule the processing here. You want event basis for streaming data processing, and so you can configure here. And the final idea I want to show in this quick review of the Data Factory, DataArts, data governance is the version control. So for example, if you want to do a rollback about a one development that is already did, you can do it directly from here. So you can have the manage or the governance of the versions in the same platform. So you can do rollback to other versions directly in this part. I mean, for example, you open this job. It's only one node. You have the control version here about everything, every job, every node, every script. So you will have that control, that governance about the factory of your data. This is also one of the important features that this platform can have, the version control. Okay, this is for job development. If we switch to the another part of the data factory, is the operational parts. I mean, this is for developers who want to develop his jobs. This is for operational part. So in this part, basically the idea is to monitor that everything is under control, that everything is running successfully. So for example, in case you have one job and you want to optimize that job, you can click here and see what are the nodes of every job. And also once you know the details about the nodes, about every job, you can find the bottleneck of the processing. So for example, if this job is taking too much time, you know that you can optimize this part because it's the one that is taking too much time. So you also have the control about the execution of your process in this part. I mean, from this monitor instance, you know which job has executed, the status, the steps or the nodes that are configured, the status of those nodes, the duration. So for example, you want to see how much time takes one specific processing, one specific ETL, you can review here. For example, this ETL about telco summary table takes like 2.4 minutes for the execution. And the other point, you will have the historical records. So you will have you will know the tendency about your process. For example, here at midnight there is a peak, so maybe something's happening in midnight. So you want to optimize to see what's going on in midnight is a good idea. But this is just for the monitoring. And another, I think this is the main features about the monitoring. You have access to everything. Also, you can export data from here, so you can check it later in Excel or other tool. And the notifications. So, for example, if one process is very important, maybe there is here one process about the report for the CEO or CTO, or I don't know, one important report. In this part of the operational or productive environment, you want to make some notifications. So one, you can configure some notification from one specific job and say, this is very important. And if something happened, I mean, it's abnormal, basically, send me one notification using the SMN service in Huawei. So you will receive a SMN notification or email. So this is important for if you want to receive some notification about the status of some jobs. And I think that's for now for Data Factory. I repeat because of the time. If, I insist, if later you want to check something specific or you have a scenario or one project, we can review later. No problem. We are always here to support and to help. And what I'm going to close this part of the Data Factory, that this is, I think, the most common in DataArts. I mean, the ETL development, very easy to use, version control, scheduling the same platform. I mean, you don't need to set a cron in a Linux file in a Linux server. You can schedule your execution from here. And I think the most important is it works and it's easy to use. Okay, the second part, very